Welcome to the Property Nomads podcast. Just a very quick introduction to this episode. A little while ago, I interviewed Nana Piesie for the Property Nomads podcast, and it was pretty awesome. We spoke about a lot of things. And then I was interviewed on the Pengaflode Podcast with Nana himself. So this is that episode from the Pengaflode Podcast. Talk about macroeconomics, what the property market's doing. Also talk a lot about using sourcing agents, and we look at the different perspectives between using sourcing agents when you're not based in the UK and then even using sourcing agents when you are based in the UK. How does it work? Things to look out for. It was an awesome recording. Really enjoyed doing this with Nana, so a shout out to himself. There's a lot of awesome content in here as well, so enjoy. This is myself with Nana on the Pengaflode Podcast.
Welcome to the Pengaflode Podcast with your host, Nana and Emily. They invest remotely in the UK and live in Sweden. In this podcast, they will be interviewing interesting guests that all invest in the UK property market.
Today, we have Robert Smallbone. How is it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nana, for the invitation. Great to be able to feature on the Pengaflode podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I found your podcast. I think it was when I was working, and I'm a nomad because we invest in UK and we live here. But I like traveling. So we share a lot of same interests. You like football? I like football. So I stumbled on it and I thought okay, why not ask him to jump on our podcast? So who is Robert?
For us, that's a tough open-ended question at the best of times. Who am I? Well, I suppose if I'm going to be philosophical about it, I think I don't know, because I think we're learning about ourselves every day. So it's difficult to really assess who I am. But if you want a sort of a brief background, so my background really is usual stuff. Grew up, went to school, went to university, didn't know any better, got my degree, got that in 2010, then went traveling around Southeast Asia and across the USA by land. That's good fun. Came back to the UK, went to work for 2.5 years, saved up, went to the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. And then from there, traveled around South America and Central America with what is now my business partner. Finished that in 2015, came back to the UK, and we'd had multiple conversations about getting involved in property, so many bus journeys and everything like that. And started doing research property wise in 2015. Set up our company Devoy Smallbone Properties in 2016. And from there, we've, every day's a new day, mainly buy-to-let investing in the north of England. And one thing's led to another. And the host or co-host of the Property Nomads podcast as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. First, the football. I wanted to go to the World Cup. I really wanted to go before all of this war. I'm not a fan of that.
No.
But Oh, but that's very interesting. That's what I mean. That's why I said that we share a lot of in the same interests, like traveling, etc. So, if I recall it right, you're based in Hull, right?
Yes, at the time of recording, yes, based in Hull in northeast or east of England, yes.
Yeah. So is that also where you invest, or do you invest everywhere?
It's the main area for investment. We've created this triangle of an investment area. So the main area is Hull. We also invest in Burnley, in Lancashire, and then also in the Rotherham area as well, so South Yorkshire. Reason for that being that we didn't want to put all our eggs in one basket and have it in the same place.
Smart.
Those that know Hull, and I'm not making a scientific prediction for 50 years' time, but Hull is very flat, and with a concern of rising water levels, that could be challenging in years and years to come, or for the people that inherit the portfolio, kids or whatever. So we've got this sort of triangle approach as well. But to be fair with you, Nana, it's if you're going down the sort of a buy-to-let strategy in the north of England, it really doesn't matter where you go. You just pick a town and do it. Pretty much every town's going to have the similar characteristics. Going to have a railway station or a bus station. They're going to be relatively well connected, and people are going to rent. So that we just picked areas and just that's it.
So this triangle strategy that you guys are doing, that's I never heard about it. Very smart of you guys. That, like you mentioned, that you diversified. You don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. Who came up with it, and how long is the distance, from each town or city, if I may ask?
Yeah, of course. We didn't really come up with it. We never actually planned it. We use property sources for most of our projects, and again through networks and through knowing people. But we got given an opportunity in Burnley and in Rotherham, and we analysed the numbers. We done our homework. We looked at the area, and you mentioned about football. Ironically, that is normally how I associate something. It's not, does it have a football team? But it does help, believe it or not. It's strange, but it does help. We didn't plan it. It just happened. In terms of distances, Hull to Rotherham, probably about an hour by car, I'd say, and then from Hull to Burnley, 2.5 hours, and then Rotherham to Burnley again, about 2.5 hours. So it's not that much. Yeah, it's not that big a distance, to be fair.
So when you jumped, you mentioned you use sources like mostly of the listeners here. Did you know the areas before, or did you do like a desktop research and then you were like, okay, this look good, let's go ahead? Or did you visit the area? How did you guys move forward?
So in terms of Hull, there's a lot of incentives. This was back in 2015, 2016. There was a lot of incentives to do with renewable energy. There's some massive, for those that are familiar with Hull, there's some massive wind turbines, wind farms just off of the coast, and just off of in the North Sea. And renewable energy, whether we like it or not, that's really what's going to happen in the next 20, 30, 40 years in our lifetime, is to have this push towards how eco-friendly can we be. And Hull has, a lot of investment from the local council and also from the government for long-term renewable energy. So that's why we ended up in Hull, big town, decent city, a very big rental town, to be fair. A lot of renters up here, and that was it. I'm from the south of England originally. I'm from a place called Reading, but moved up. Purposely moved up to Hull just to be. I wanted to be in the local area. I like traveling around. I didn't want to. I'm happy to get involved in a new way of life, and that was that. So, but how do I know Burnley and Rotherham? Didn't know the areas particularly well, But again, I'll go back to football, and I love geography. So, I know where Burnley is. I'd never been before until this opportunity was presented, but I knew roughly where it was because, again, that's football. But I love geography. I'm also a bit of a railway fanatic. So I read a few magazines, and there's always different developments going on. So, this train line's been opened, or that's going to open, or there's going to be something new here. And again, that sounds a bit geeky, but that can provide really incredibly useful economic data. Because if people don't know that, but a new railway station's coming, that's key for investment. So it was a combination. I didn't know much about the areas before we started investing, but over time, you get presented with a deal, you do your homework, you do your analysis, you ring around the agents, visit the area. Is it going to work? And then you just have to make a judgment call, and we did, and thankfully the properties have so far so good.
Yeah, that's really funny that you associate with the football, because I when we started with this property journey, every time we're like, oh yeah, that they have a team, yeah, this this and this, because you recognize all of the name from the towns from in the football, in championship, in the Premier League, and you're just like, okay. But you didn't know how much the population and etc. was. But that's really good. And like you said, the geeky stuff, that's really good stuff, because then you're ahead of the game, because you know what's happening with the trail. And majority of people use railway and motorways. So if you know that, then you're ahead. So yeah, that's a good geeky tool that you got. So what do you think we should think of when doing with sourcers? What question do you ask them?
Oh, that's a good question, Nana. I'm quite cynical. I like to know everything. That's just part of my nature. So for me, I want to know how long they've been in operation, what's the name of the company, search on Companies House, what do other people say about them, clients that they've done deals with, do they have good deals, or do they, if they say it's off market, is it off market? Yeah. It's very easy to, have an off market deal that you can then go and find on Rightmove. I want to know if they've got all their certification in place. Do they have AML in place? So for those that don't know what that is, that's anti-money laundering. As a sourcer, you've got to have that in place. Are they part of the PRS scheme or the property ombudsman? The basic homework I could do myself. I think every investor needs to do the basic homework, about an area. That's important. So yeah, I'll ask everything. It's as you've said many a time before, and as many other people have, it's a people business. And I'd rather ask questions, because it works two ways. Those people don't know what I've got, and I don't know what they've got. For all they know, they might look at me and go, "Oh no, he's another time waster." I could be sat here with £5 million, going, "If I like you, I'll do a deal a day," but they don't know that.
Yeah.
By the way, I haven't. For those that don't email me, I haven't got £5 million in my bank. I'll let you know that for now. I will at some point, but not now. So yeah, I want to know everything, because there's so many dodgy people out there that don't understand the rules, and we've just got to be careful. So yeah, I want to know everything, and I will ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. So that leads me into, why do you use sourcers? Why don't you buy your own properties and, do all of the project management, all of these stuff? Is it because you want to be like an armchair investor, or why?
Well, multiple reasons. I'm not, despite hosting a podcast, I'm not much of a people person. I'm really not. Now, the reason for that is I'm autistic. So I fail to get emotions. I don't get people personally. I love doing these recordings and, being on podcasts and hosting podcasts because I love to listen and understand. But I don't get these subtle clues that, through body language and stuff like that. So now I've learned that over time. When we started in property, it was, mainly myself doing a lot of the rushing around and getting things done. But I found I get frustrated very quickly if things aren't done how I like them to be done. So, so Aaron and I over time, we've just looked at it and gone, well, okay, what system and process works for us? Of course, we've got our network. We do talk to people, and most of the opportunities that we do get actually just come from people that we know. But yeah, so that's probably the main reason. It's just developing. I'm not much of a people person, and not because I don't want to be. It's just I don't get people. To be fair, so yeah, so being involved in a people business is quite interesting. But Aaron takes care of most of that. And I've never really liked the chase of it, to be fair. I like property. I love the information, and I love bits and pieces. Stuff like that. It's really good. But yeah, in terms of like trying to project manage, I am the worst project manager. Do not ask me to project manage anything. I'm useless at it. But everyone's got their own skill sets, haven't they? And I think if you know yourself, then that will help your business move forward. And every day's a new day.
Yeah, obviously it has moved forward because you've been buying a lot of deals going forward. So as long as, like you say, you just need to be aware of what you're good of and what you're not. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm good at spreadsheets and etc. But I know my missus is. So why should I even go into that? Even if she really wants me to understand it a bit, how you can do it, etc. But I'm like, I should just focus on my strengths. And basically that's what you're doing. So yeah, good on you there. Good on you there. So that leads me into my third question. So, what do you think is a reasonable amount paying a sourcer?
That depends on the deal. That
If you're doing a buy to let now, because
okay.
I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Or because you're doing buy to lets, right? Or do you have other HMOs and commercial, or you're mainly doing buy to lets, if I recall it right?
That's correct. Yeah, our main strategy is buy to let. For me, I'm happy to pay. We're happy to pay around about 3,000. If the deal passes our criteria, and you got two different types of deal. So, right, in our opinion, you've got two different types of deal. You've got the ones where you can obviously buy below market value, add value, refurb, and you can come in and out of the deal relatively quickly. Or we've got the other approach, which is again a very long-term approach. Is let's just say we've got an investor that's got £50,000, and they are happy to give us the finance for a couple of years. Then, depending on the property and what's going on, we might just buy the property with a mortgage on a 2-year fixed period, do some work over time, and then in a couple of years' time, refinance, give the investor their money. So we've got two ways of doing it, and it depends what approach you want to take with it. But now, in answer to your question, I'd say 3,000 is reasonable. Again, it depends on the numbers. If it's a true, as they say, money in, money out deal, which they're not impossible to get. They're rare, but they're not impossible. And I've seen people charge 5,000 for that. Then it's a cost of business is the way that I'd look at it. So depends on the deal, but 3,000 I'd say is ballpark. I'd say that's reasonable for a decent buy-to-let deal.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So that leads me into this question that you mentioned. This follow-up question. You said that you have this second strategy that you do with your investors, that you take their money and then you park it, and then after 2 years you refinance. Have you actually done that and see the capital growth go up and give back the money to the investor?
Yeah, I'll give you the most recent example. I was again at the time of recording, we had a refinance done recently. I bought it for 55,000 a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. Revalued up at 82. So we're able to pull, and again, taking into account 2.5 years of cash flow there from the rent as well. Then we've been able to pass that money back to the investor, and that's the most recent example that comes to mind.
Free house.
Pretty much. Our approach is long term. It's very, we've tried many things. We've looked at different things. We've had things that have worked, things that haven't worked as well. And Aaron and I take a very, very long term approach to it. We're both early 30s. We're going to be doing this in some capacity when we're 50, 60, because we've both got a very long term approach. So yeah, we're happy to work like that, because at the end of the day, for us, the key thing's the investor. The investor's got to be happy, and if you can build that rapport with the investor and you can build that trust, that it's not automatic, but that can lead to a lot of repeat business. And if you're dealing with the same pot of finance, it's happy days for everyone. Really, it's about the win-win situation.
Yeah. You bought several source deals. Have you bought a deal that it wasn't accurate what they said in the end? Like, did you have complications?
Yeah, we've had a couple of deals we've bought. We've had complications with. Refurbs weren't what they meant to be. Prices changing at the last minute. Things that have been found in the property that weren't brought to anyone's attention. And I think in that situation, you can really do one of two things. You can sit and blame everyone else, which is easy to do. We all love moaning in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's easy to sit down and blame other people. And sometimes that's correct. Sometimes there are things where it is valid that it is someone else's fault. But the second time, Nana, you've got to look at yourself. And if I go back to some of the source deals that haven't been as good as they could have been, sometimes they've been things that I've missed. So I've had to learn that lesson and go, how have I missed that? Right, I'll make a note of it. So next time I'm out and about looking, I've got to look for it. Or next time I speak to a source, I've got to ask that question. So it's about learning from those mistakes and not repeating them. And yeah, we have to look at ourselves first. That's important. And it's a two-way street. We cannot just sit here and expect sources to do everything for us. We have to do our own homework, our own analysis, and do our own due diligence. So yeah, it works both ways.
When you did this deal where you parked the money, how could you factor in the capital growth? What percentage did you factor in your spreadsheet, or how did you know that, okay, in 2 years' time, I think we can pull out all of the money, give back the money to the investor? So your thoughts on that would be great too.
Comes down to luck. Comes down to luck. You've got to do your homework as well. Some of it does come down to luck, because at the end of the day, you are, when you go to refinance, you are pretty much in the hands of the valuer. If the valuer is having a good day, you might get a more favourable valuation. Even the weather, if it's a nice sunny day, that might help. But no, go in all seriousness, you've got to do your homework at the start. So we will never, ever guarantee to our investor that everything's going to be 100%. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be fine because it's property. That, forgive my language, that shit doesn't happen. There are always going to be challenges all the time. But we will do do the homework on the property. Are you getting it below market value, or are you getting it so you can add enough value to warrant a refinance, to get the right valuation that you need? So you have to run your numbers. We don't have a special calculator for analyzing capital growth, because you make your money when you buy in property.
Yeah.
Common rule that.
That's true.
So so you've got to do your homework, and a little bit does come down to luck. What's your refurb like? Is a valuer, is a valuer in a good mood on the day of the valuation? Are you the first property they're visiting? Because they're going to be more alert. If they get tired at the end of the day, they're a bit, that might not work in your favour. And also, hopefully the FCA aren't listening to this. Always put a slightly higher valuation when you speak to your broker. If you're aiming for 75, for example, put down you think the property's worth 85. Even if it's not, put down a higher number, because if you get down valued, you might still end up with the result you wanted in the first place. I learned that the hard way. So that's probably a little extra tip of information. Just put down don't make it ridiculous, but put down a slightly higher valuation, because at the end of the day, if you're doing good property, you want to make sure that your property is the best one in the street, and that should be evident when the valuer walks in.
That was a really good tip for you listeners, and even for me. That was a really good tip. So when you meet the valuer, or if it's the sourcer, do you know what they bring with them? Is it comparables? What do they do, and how should people act, etc.?
Yeah, again, I'll answer this the best as I can, so I'm not overly in tune with people. So I'll do what I can. Sometimes I've attended. Sometimes the tenant's been in, and the tenant's dealt with it. Sometimes the lettings agent has dealt with it, because, despite the fact I live in Hull, I'm not ridiculously hands-on, because we've got to start planning for, when we're traveling around the world, we're not going to be in the country to deal with it. So we have to put the trust in our power team to do that as well. So, I always would prepare a little pack. So you do your own homework, go on Rightmove, get those links, get the comparables as well. Have some photos of what the property looked like before, and then what the property looks like, after the refurb was done. List any works that have been done, but don't put the price down. Just list the works that have been done, if you have done works in the property. Present that in a nice little, 5, 6, 7 page document as well. Put it in a little plastic wallet and give it to the valuer on the day. Every valuer is different. Some won't care that you're giving it to them. Some just don't care. Some will take it and say thank you. They might never look at it. And some will look at it because you've effectively done their job for them when they come up with a valuation. So everyone's different, but it's these little things that can have a massive difference, because doing something like that could lead to, a different valuation, which could be favorable. In terms of, say, now I've completely forgot the point I was going to make. I was going to make another good point there, but I forgot what I was going to say. That was it. For me, if a valuer turns up, let them do their job. Do not follow them around the property. Let them into the property. Let them do their job. They don't need to know. You do not need to walk around and go, "Oh, there's a kitchen." It's like, yeah, I can see that. Thanks. Yeah, I know what a kitchen looks like. You don't have to tell them that. I let them in. They do their job. Be courteous. Even if they're a miserable person, just be courteous. Be nice. Be friendly. Be smiley. Give them the document. Let them do their job. They can go home. And you can go home as well. So just don't.
Happy days.
Yeah, don't follow them around. Don't be a nuisance. As I say to them, if you've got any questions, let me know. I'm just going to wait outside, and I'll let you do what you need to do. They're in charge. They're in charge at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that leads me into this COVID stuff, because we're in this COVID stuff here in Sweden and in UK, the whole world. How do you think moving forward now with the mortgages, etc.? Are you going for the fixed term, like 5 years, 2 years, or yeah? What's your take on that?
Well, I was asked this recently on another interview that I done, and I went off on one for about 20 minutes about economics and how the world is bollocks. We're screwed. But I'll try not to do that again. But I thought it was good. I think what you can do is check out the Property Nomads podcast, because we've cut the clip down, so you've just got that answer. So go check that out.
I'll leave that in the show notes so people can listen to it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. In answer to your question, though, tough. Really, it depends on your strategy, and it depends what your broker advises you as well, to be fair. At the moment, we're doing a lot of 5-year fixed because, if we strip back and let's just look at the very basics here of economics, of what's going on as we record this. So you might have lockdown, you might not have a lockdown. Of course, here in England, we've got, at the moment, we've got lockdown. But let's break this down as simply as we can. We have our economy, or, to be fair, the worldwide economy is going downhill, going massively, massively downhill. And the response that governments or central banks have had is they're just printing. They're printing and printing and printing and printing and printing currency, which, okay, that's okay it's not okay, but the perception of the people is that's okay for the short term. But in the medium term and long term, it's going to be like Armageddon in the next 5 years, and it's going to be brutal for everyone, and that's what will happen. The challenge that we've got, though, is that because some genius in Westminster come up with this idea of changing stamp duty, all this pent-up demand from the first lockdown, and investors as well as regular people that are buying and selling houses to move, because of the change in stamp duty, they've kind of not exploded the market, but all this pent-up demand has just been unleashed on the property market. And, it's created bidding wars and, stuff like that here and there. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like at the end of March, but the point I'm trying to make is that in a time when most of the world is either in a recession or we're having this massive depression that we're a part of, and it's going to be generational, whether we like it or not, that housing seems to still be shining. And, that's scary, because to me, that is an anomaly. That's a bubble. And all you've got to do is study your history, study cycles, and you've got to realize that bubbles will burst. So I'm a bit skeptical from that. And I think that, don't get me wrong, for people that are listening to this, don't take what I say as, it's doom and gloom, it's the end of the world. There are always opportunities in property, but no matter where we are in the cycle, every good entrepreneurial person will find a way to make money. That's life. But you've got to look at the reality of it. The psychological impact of the housing market in the moment is people are looking at it positively. Well, that's good for the economy, despite everything else that's going on. But the virus isn't going away. The lockdowns aren't going to go away because people are still moving. You need to stop everyone from doing everything and create a vaccine. That's years away, in my opinion. And yeah, economically, it concerns me. So that's why we're looking at 5-year fixed. And we're not doing too much buying at the moment, because our instincts tell us, Aaron and myself, that at some point in the next, maybe it's 2021, maybe it's 2022, maybe it's 2023, it will burst. And when it bursts, of course, stuff will go down. And that's where you want to be, again, cash rich, and not be revaluing your properties. So that's why we're looking at 5-year at the moment. And I understand that might be stuff that people don't want to hear, and they might think, Rob, you're just being skeptical, you're just being overcautious.
No.
That's economics. You got to understand this, and that's what's happening. It's dangerous, and not many people are seeing it because we're controlled by, we're being controlled by this virus. But as a society, we've not had to deal with this for over 100 years. Spanish flu is the last one. That was 100 years ago. So we can have a recession all day long. That's fine. That's not a problem. That's not an issue. But when you put a virus in and you put a pandemic in, it's a different story. And if people want to kick around with their everyday lives, and again, I get it. I understand that if you work in a theatre or you're working at a restaurant, the fear of being made redundant and not having your job and the pressure that puts on you to pay your bills and pay your rent. I get all that. And that's, unfortunately, that is just part of what people are going to have to go through. But also, Nana, I would hope that's why, I know we spoke recently, you got into property for various reasons, but this is also why people like yourself, ourselves, people listening to this, that's why you get into property. Because when the shit hits the fan, like it's gonna, if you're cash flowing okay, you can ride it out. And, hey, but 5-year fixed mortgages, yes, that's why, because we're looking at the economics and going, we don't want to be refinancing in a couple of years because we do think that something's going to pop. And you don't want to be refinancing then because you're just going to get yourself into a negative equity situation, which, isn't necessarily good.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And I really, I'm also really geeky with the macro economics because you need to know what's actually happening. And I don't understand all of this stuff that's really happening in the UK or even in Sweden. It seems like everywhere in the world, house prices is just going up. It doesn't make sense. People are redundant, like you said, and they're just printing money. It seems like people are just living in this bubble, and when it breaks or when it cracks or pop, that's when the shit hits the fan, like you said. And that's when you want to be and buy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So definitely totally agree with you.
I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, this is scary that people don't seem to understand. Property investors don't seem to, most property investors, not everyone, I get everyone, but most people don't seem to understand this because they're trying to ride this crest of the wave and going, everything's gold and everything's great. Trust me, it's not going to be, but it's a market cycle. It's going to go down, it's going to get worse and then it'll get better. And then, we'll go through the cycle again. Just look at the history of it. There's so much out there. We'll have bad times.
History always repeats itself.
100%. But that's me ranting. I've just gone off on one. But I believe people need to understand this more because it will help them make the decision that goes back to your question about what sort of mortgages. Always speak to your broker, of course, but if you get a little understanding of economics, that might help you to make a decision about what the most appropriate mortgages are to go for, because it helps your overall strategic plan.
Yeah. So, what do you see in the current market, the changes that have happened, like the demand for property and etc.? What type of demand?
I think I'll just go back to the stamp duty changes, to be fair, where they've relaxed stamp duty. And again, that has a really positive impact on regular people that are looking to move houses. All this demand from this first lockdown has just unleashed itself onto the market. And I know the government are looking at different planning rules and changes and to help make things like that a lot simpler. That's absolutely fine. That's not an issue. But for me, I just see that there's a lot of demand out there and there's a lot of competition. And that doesn't concern me, but certainly in the last lockdown and the one that we're going to go through in a minute, I've taken a lot of time to take a step back really from property and actually just focus more on the economic side and go, what's going on here? And, as you've just said, it doesn't add up. So maybe I'm a bit more cautious than most, possibly. And it's not about me, it's not about I'm right, you're wrong, or when it goes bad, oh, hate to say I told you so, I'm the best. It's not about that. It's about how I look at things. And you, of course, you love macroeconomics as well. We're looking at things a bit differently here and going, doesn't add up. Something doesn't add up here. And look at the history where when it doesn't add up, it's going to go down. And that's what I think will happen personally.
Yeah, and I think as well, because both of us are looking for it in the long run. So even if we sit this out 1 year, 2 years, or whatever, yeah, okay, it's 1-2 years, but we're still safe, and the investors' monies, they're safe, and still we have deals that are cash flowing, so it doesn't matter, in the meantime, as long as you don't, people sometimes they rush just to expand, and then when you expand too quickly, there's no way back, or it's a very long way back. So I think your approach is great.
And at the end of the day as well, if your property's worth £100,000 and your cash flowing £200 a month, then that's great. If your property's worth £1, but your cash flowing £200 a month, doesn't make a difference, does it? It's all about the cash flow. So,
yeah. So, what's your why? Why are you doing this? I know you mentioned a bit of it, but do you really have a big why? Travel
is the main thing. That's the thing that drives us, and again, that's difficult at the moment. So yeah, travel is what drives us. We want to create this. I hate using the word legacy, but we are thinking, that. Well, okay, I want to create a legacy. There you are. So we want to create this, thing that's going to stand the test of time, and that we can pass on as well. I'm sure that Aaron's going to have. I imagine Aaron will have kids of his own in the future. I'll probably have kids in the future. What happens then? I don't know. That's too far ahead to think about. But really, travel and sport, because we love. We're lucky enough to go to Brazil in 2014. Admittedly, we did when we worked for that and saved for it. But moving forward, I want to go. We want to go to, if it still happens, Qatar 2022. Rugby World Cups, cricket World Cups. We love that whole camaraderie. But we also love going off the beaten track, and we know that if there's assets behind us and the right people are in the right place with the right systems, then we're going to be able to do that. That's it as well. And we have a duty to other people that want to become financially free in property as well. If people want a decent return on their cash, just like everyone, you do the same with your investors in Sweden. Go with the knowledge, build that trust, build that rapport. And if you can help them, and you can also help yourself at the same time and create a win-win situation, that's absolutely perfect. So, but no, I want to visit every country in the world by the time I'm 50. That's my main driving force. That's my main aim. And also, to have more time to do other things, study new things, visit new places. So that's what keeps me going.
Wow. What tips can you give us as international investors?
What with regards to investing in property?
Yep.
Okay.
Or in the UK in property, yeah, exactly.
Well, sort of goes in hand with what we've just said. Understand economics. Number one, understand it. You're never going to get perfect timing, but you can always get good timing if you if you study hard enough. One would be understand economics. Number two, there's always opportunities. So it doesn't matter where we are, what's going on, there's always opportunities. Investing internationally, take time to build up your network, take time to study people, work with people. And again, I say this from what I've learned over the years. Takes time to build up trust. There's going to be many people out there that want to earn a quick buck, and there are, as with any industry, there's going to be bad people out there. Just be careful. Get involved in the right networks. Listen to the right podcasts. Like course, this one, R1. There's multiple podcasts out there. Get that information. That's key. Read books, and I've written a couple of books as well. You can go check them out. I'm sure we'll mention that at the end anyway. And just soak up that information like a sponge. But take time to build the network. Don't just rush into something. Take time to analyze it, understand it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. We all make mistakes, and hey, in property, sometimes that costs money, but that is what it is. It's part and parcel of business. Don't be afraid, and as you've pointed out greatly, Nana, is know your why you're doing it. For me, it's travel. For you, it's your daughter, and everyone's why is going to be different. So, yeah, a multitude of things really. There's a lot of great content out there. I've done training and this and that. You don't have to do it. I advise that you do. There is some good stuff out there, but you can get a lot of information from books and podcasts, and just go out there and do it. Really, I think there's about 10 things there. Hopefully, they're all useful.
That's good. That's good. You cover a lot, but that's good. So I have this question that I ask all of my listeners: if you had unlimited funds, who would you get as a mentor?
If I had unlimited funds, who would I get as a mentor?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be property. It can be everything.
Oh, I would say, you caught me off guard. I'm just going to say Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
One of the richest guys in the world. Saw massive gap in the market. That was 25 years ago. And there's even more gaps that have appeared in the market. Goes from strength to strength, and if you're going to become the best, you want to learn from the best. So I'd say Jeff Bezos, but that's just off the top of my head. Doing wonders with Amazon. It's one of the, if you want to order something, it's normally the first place you go to, isn't it? So you got to be doing something right.
Yeah, they came to Sweden this month, actually, or end of October. So in Sweden we didn't have the real Amazon, so now we have Amazon Sweden. So they came, and I think they will just explode here in Sweden. I already ordered two stuff. Otherwise, you usually have to pay for this expenses, like not the toll, but the transport and etc. when you're buying stuff from the UK or Germany. But now when it's in Sweden, everything's free.
It is what it is. I say he must be doing something right, because multi-billion pound company there. So yeah, I'd say, off the top of my head, before I start thinking about it and change my mind, Jeff Bezos is who I go for.
Jeff Bezos. So Robert, if people want to get hold of you, the podcast, and see you on social media, and everything, I don't know if you have all of your, just let it out there.
No, thanks for that. I really appreciate that. So I'm lucky enough to have written 2 books. One is Buy to Let, How to Get Started. The other one I co-wrote with Aaron, and that's 101 Top Property Tips. They're available on Amazon, so you can go and check them out. I'm sure the links will be in the show notes. In terms of the podcast, the Property Nomads podcast, go and check us out. We're on all the major platforms, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, that sort of stuff. We've got a wide range of content, mostly property related, but we do dip into other things as well. We release every Monday, and then sometimes I'll do a ranty episode every Thursday, or most Thursdays. So go and check us out there. You can follow us on social media. We're not too proficient on social media, as you found out. We don't always reply straight away, but we're working on that. But the easiest way to contact me, without a shadow of a doubt, is email, and that is rob@tpnpodcast.com. I'm quite responsive on email, and that is always the best way to get hold of me.
Okay, so there you have it, listeners. Contact Rob and listen to his podcast, get his books, and even try to get him to be more interactive on social media. He's very old school with email. No, but just kidding. You should go and listen to his podcast. It's very good. I've listened to it several times, and I like your rants because they're valuable. And I think if you're geeky like you and me, it's very interesting topics that you bring up when you're doing your rants, I think. But that's for the listeners to decide as well.
And I appreciate that, Nana. Kind words. I just try and be myself. You know, I'm not perfect, and I've got a different view from most people in the world. So I'm just happy to be myself. And I'd just like to say a massive thank you to, you know, yourself, Emily, as well, who's not here today, for giving the time today to be able to record this. So a massive thank you to yourself as well, and you know, all the best moving forward.
Thank you the same. So people, don't be stressed, invest. Bye.